Oh, come on. Yes!
Welcome back to Danger's Tackle Tips. We're in for an epic session on the flats today. I started out chasing whiting and then I counted some other fish which were way more fun. So it's on the lower end of the tide and I've had to walk out quite far here, and I'm just targeting a flats area to my left. You can see there where there's no weed, and then I'm actually standing in a little bit of a channel here. So the line along the weed there is where some of the whiting was sitting. Little mini one to start with. I could see the school flashing. I was wearing my polarized sunnies, so I just kept on following it. So I'm moving fairly quickly and there was a heap of bait around. Eventually I came to this channel here. So I was out quite far, but in the middle of the flats there was this channel just racing through the middle here where water was rushing back onto the flats.
Oh! Massive explosion on it.
Got a really nice swell there, so I kept on going. Here I've got my TD Hyper 8'6" rod. So I'm using a Molossi Echo 65F, which is a floating stick bait. Really effective for the whiting. I've taken off the trebles and just put on 2 atomic assist hooks at the back with the red flash, which I really like for the whiting. This 8'6" rod also allows me to cast really far. So it's rated 2 to 5 kilo, so it's really light. And it also allows me to cast these lures into the wind. The only downside of a rod this long when you're on the flats is that it makes it a little bit more challenging to land the fish into your landing net without high stick in your rod, but it's definitely worth it. It also means you can cover a lot more ground because you're going to get an extra 4 to 5 meters on every cast, so you can cover more ground to find the fish. One thing to consider when you're using a rod this long though is that by the time the guides get down to the end, because it's so light, they're really small. So if you're going to run any leader heavier than 6 pound, you just want to make sure your leader is outside the end of the last guide when you're casting, otherwise you're prone to wind knots. So I'm usually using sort of 4 to 6 pound leader, or I'm using a shorter leader, which is fine because you've got an 8'6" rod, so you can still have a fairly decent leader, but it just means if you're going to be changing lures regularly, you might want to use a lure clip if you're going for flathead. I tend to like the loop knots if I'm using a floating stick bait, just because it gives it a little bit more action.
Oh, come on. Yes!
I don't think there's much of a better feeling than that. Drag is firing off. I had to tighten it a little bit because I did have it set up for whiting. Wasn't sure if it was going to be a juvenile salmon or a Tailor. As it got closer I could see it was my old mate Tailor. Putting on a good show.
Ah! Yeah, Tailor.
I had my cooler backpack on, so I was going to keep a couple of them for a feed. And we're on again. Just casting along the line of the channel where it drops off. I could see them moving up and down. I had my polarized sunnies on and they were moving at a rapid pace, just smashing bait everywhere.
Oh.
I've just got the 2 little assist hooks, so I'm sort of dicing with death. Eventually, I'm at risk of the hooks getting bitten off, but it's one of those things. Do I change lure and miss a bite, or just keep going? I'll follow on the lure right in. Again, I'm only using the assist hook, so they're probably just swiping at it there. But again, I'm just going to keep this lure on because sometimes the school will just go away. Bang, we're on. I've also got the middle treble taken off, which means that there's less hooks closer to where the leader is for them to bite off. But I love fishing in about knee-deep water. Having said that, the middle of the channel probably looked like about 1.5 meters deep, so I wasn't going to walk through it. But I love those follows. If I paused, I probably could have hooked up on these crazy fish, but I only got a 60mm lure there, so you run the risk of getting it bitten off, so better off just keeping on retrieving it in. If I was using a bigger stick bait, then I would definitely do a pause.
They got the assist hooks on, so they're probably going to bite through at some point.
Apologies for some of the wind noise. I've got a wind cover for my DJI coming pretty soon, so should stop that when I'm on the flat soon. The Tailor was starting to rack up, and the assist hooks at the back were holding on for dear life, but I thought, hey, look, got a few in the bag now, finally time to change over. So I put on the larger Molossi Echo 80 and took off those assist hooks and put back on a treble. Dolphins coming into the ditch, which is always a good sign that there's fish, but they can often scare away schools as well. This one was fighting a little bit different. Thought it might have been a small Tailor at first, and he got a bit closer and he's a nice bull herring.
Herring?
Or on the board of bull herring anyway. Big chunky one.
Oh no, I missed that one.
And then I got onto the biggest Tailor of the day. And like a lot of content creators, it's a part of it, but I had the camera off. He actually bit a hole through my net as well, the bastard. Line roll is starting to get pretty loud. I'm gonna have to get that replaced. Either way, the Tailor were loving the 80 just as much as the 65. And having the treble on the back definitely increased the hookup rate on this instance. Old mate here was a bit smaller, so he got to go home. They were all doing a number on my net though. I had holes all through it. From this one here was hooked on again as well. I think I'm in for a new one. Here I was casting actually to the other side of the channel, so they'd started to migrate over there, so the larger lure gave me a little bit further casting distance and they were picking it up from quite far away. Starting to get a little bit smaller now. That one flew straight between my legs after I released him. Then the herring started to bite. There was a school of them that just wouldn't stop. It was herring after herring after herring. On any other day I would have been happy with that. reasonable size for a decent feed if I wanted to as well. This one was a bit smaller actually. After a little bit, the weed started just flowing into this ditch here. So every cast was picking off weed off your lure, so it was time to change over. I was also running out of time and had to get back to work, so I took off the 80 and put back on the 65, which had the 2 assist hooks at the back, and thought I would chase a few whiting on the way back to the car.
Oh.
Doing constant movements and walking the dog. Using my front index finger, give a little flicks and we're on.
Here's a nice one. Little one, nice little one.
I'm sure if I had spent my time just chasing these rather than getting distracted with the Tailor, I probably would have got myself a nice feed. It's a nice slapper. Next cast, I was on again. It's always a fine balance trying to work out what sort of drag you want from on these whiting, because you want to be able to set the hook but not to pop out those little assists. So I usually do it fairly light as long as the assist hooks are nice and sharp. Thought I pulled the hooks on this one, but when I got back to shore I realised that the assist hooks were gone. They must have finally gone from that Tailor, and that whiting must have been the last straw. I'd actually been still casting this lure all the way back, and I was wondering why none of the follows were sticking, and I was just getting swipes. Well, no hooks. Either way, it was a pretty epic session, so can't complain. Thanks for watching. For more flats videos, please subscribe. Feel free to ask any questions in the comment section below.